So what I was talking about all stemmed, I think, from me watching a podcast and highly official, if you know, you know, and also that one eggs podcast. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And just me doing some reflection over my time of getting my life back, building my life back, or whatever. So I'm gonna try to make this a long story short. I'll probably cut out some of this stuff that I'm gonna make this a long story short. So what I want to say is, I'm speaking directly to the Black community, and I'm also speaking directly. What I'm going to talk about is for all ears, no matter what race you are, ethnicity, what culture you come from, wherever, whoever. Anybody can hear this, but my target audience are people who look like me, and who have a little bit of sense, because I know there can be a lot of ignorance, which has everything to do with what I'm about to say. So, for a long time, me being from LA, growing up in LA, raised in LA, Los Angeles, California, and not really traveling outside of this one state ever in my life, I have always grown up with this overwhelming sense, based off of my personal environment, being from South Central LA, but also feeling very deeply, because I can be very empathetic for sure. But I have always felt this overwhelming sense of the help and the lack of resources and support within the Black community. And I'm talking specifically about my experience being from South Central LA, being from places like Watts and, you know what I'm saying, low income, poverty filled places in California. And I'm saying it like this in this way because I have common sense to know that what we consider, or what I would consider, poverty and living in impoverished situations and environments in comparison to other places outside of the United States, other countries and other continents, and how their poverty presents itself, I'm pretty sure it could be a very large difference, a very significant difference that you can easily see and feel, right? But I can only speak from where I'm from and what I know. But I'm saying all of that to say that I have always felt an overwhelming sense of, yeah, I notice and I see all of these things. I'm aware of these things. I'm even impacted by these things, right? These things, the way we operate and function as a society, the way we operate and function as a community, the way we operate and function in our day-to-day lives amongst each other, around each other, trying to survive, right? The way that we do that, what that looks like. You know what I'm saying? How we live, how we wake up, how we grocery shop, how we do our laundry, how we ride down the street playing our music, how we listen to music, how we operate and function as a community, as a people. I always felt an overwhelming sense and can acknowledge things that could be better, right? Things that could be better, because I was comparing our position in society, our environments, to other places. For instance, South Central LA in comparison to the Valley. I can't speak so much now because I haven't lived in the Valley for years, so I can't really give you specific details, but the differences in different areas in comparison to some, right? All throughout Los Angeles County, all throughout California, you have different environments. So when I got back to one environment and I was exposed to other environments, I was like, oh, okay, well, the interaction, the atmosphere, the vibes, the aura, the environments, the way I feel, just it's cleaner air in these other places. Just walking outside feels lighter in other places. This is what I was experiencing. And you go through life, you're experiencing your day-to-day life, you're doing what you got to do, where you're from, whatever, surviving. But in the back of my mind and in my heart, there's this overwhelming sense, this feeling like, damn, why is it like this? It does not have to be like this. And how do I know this? And how have I come to this conclusion? Because I've been to other environments. I've seen other things. I've interacted and I've been around other situations and circumstances where I did not feel like this, and I did not see these things that I'm seeing in this environment that I don't really like. It feels heavy. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't feel light. So I'm saying all of that to say that I really just came to articulate out loud today, like in this very moment, like, it is very wishful thinking of me to have spent so much time and energy, emotional energy, thinking of ways of how Black communities can function better. And I'm talking about really, really function better and not have to experience, and we can even call some stuff gentrification. So I'm sitting here doing all of this work because I'm trying to gentrify our community. And I'm not talking about the negative gentrification. I'm talking about Black people not lacking in anything. Every Black person not lacking in anything, in any resource, in anything that is needed to thrive. I'm talking about spending time and energy of ways, and why is it not like that? Why is nobody reaching out doing these things to make our communities better? And I'm talking about the real communities. I'm not talking about the ones that are on BET. No shade to BET. I'm not talking about the people that get on social media and try to highlight some stuff that was broken and I was like, no, I'm talking about, if you know, you know. I'm talking about those environments. I'm talking about that stuff that's not really highlighted on social media. And if it is, it gets taken down or nobody's paying attention to it because that's not their reality. That's not their problem. And they don't even care. As a matter of fact, they're laughing and they're happy about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about that. But I came to the realization today and said that I feel like one of the main reasons why there's nobody really doing any kind of action to change the reality for, I'm talking about access to resources and to make the changes that are needed in our education systems and all of these systems, right, that really impact the people that are coming from these environments, is because there's a lot to take into consideration. And one of the podcasts mentioned unity. And I would even go as far as to say that the force and the power of unity is definitely powerful. You know what I'm saying? But we need even more than that. We need even more than just unity. We need unity, and we also need people to be willing to sacrifice their comfort and themselves. And the days that we're living in, that's a very far-fetched idea, because you have to have people, and I'm talking about significant people of high value who have access to resources and education, to be willing to sacrifice themselves to some extent and not be guaranteed that any significant changes will be followed out, will be changed and never reversed. Don't let that go over your head. You have to have people who are willing to sacrifice their comfort, their success, their access to the things that they've worked hard for, the things that they're blessed with, as far as their mentality, their resources, their time, their day. You have to have a large amount of people willing to sacrifice themselves in an effort to do that. But you have to have people who are willing to sacrifice themselves and put in real work and time and effort for it not to be a guarantee of any changes. Now, I get that, for example, you can have somebody who decides that you can have a billionaire, right? A billionaire that decides that he want to drop tons of money into each individual family home, right? Don't know you from Adams. Just because you're alive, you have a social security number, and you have documentation to prove your identity. This billionaire wants to just drop millions into each person's home. Kids, don't have kids, single, married, separated, divorced, living alone, homeless, whatever, in and out of jail, doesn't matter your situation, circumstances, as long as you can prove and provide your identity, having some form of identification. This billionaire wants to give you a lump sum of money and wants to give you a home in whatever environment and place you decide, and a car, and give you a way to receive income. You don't even got to work for it. They're just going to set you up like that so that you can have a better quality of life. This is, for example, right? This is hypothetically speaking. Does this to the Black community. So now this billionaire has transformed a large portion of the Black community. And so statistically speaking, the low income rates have changed drastically. There really is no more low income and poverty filled Black Americans, right? There is no more, because this billionaire has just uprooted that and changed it overnight. And so there's a lot of things, obviously, a nuance that you have to take in consideration. You know what I'm saying? Because now you have the economy doing things because people got more money. Black people specifically have more money, right? So there's a lot more activity going on in certain systems within the United States. But the main point is that there is no more poverty because somebody just came and changed that. But so now you're dealing with people who have access to things, places, people, and resources because they have money now. And so that changes a lot of things. And I can't really say what it all changes, but think for yourself. Imagine what that would change. Imagine what that would be like, which is my whole point of this video, and saying that there's a lot to be taken into consideration when you have people like me, who from a young age have always felt an overwhelming sense of things can be better. But coming to the point today where I realize that, realistically speaking, there's so much to take into consideration in how that would look and how that would change. And that is the reason why it has not happened. And that is the reason why so many people have lost hope and feel like it will never happen on a large scale. Because it can happen individually. It can happen individually. It can happen to people who are out there getting education, who are transforming their lives by themselves with their small little support system and their small little resources. They're changing their own individual life, and they're not looking back. They're not looking back because they know that they only have the power and the resources to change their own life. Why? Because they've taken all of what I just said and then some into consideration. And that just changed my whole identity. Because it even breeds to me more of a level and extent of selfishness. Like, all right, if I want things to change, I can only be responsible for changing my own life. And I can still go out there and do volunteer work, and I can still pray for people and pray that things will get better. But the sad truth and reality is that I have to accept that things may never change for everybody. Things may only change for me and my immediate circle.